Welcome, gals and goblins. Tonight's narration features 3 chilling stories found on Reddit. So sit back, relax, and let's begin. I follow my wife's Reddit account to anonymously give her awards. It started with me browsing the curly hair subreddit. My wife always struggled with frizz, so I lurked there to get ideas for a hair care gift package. By chance, I saw she'd posted a selfie, along with the caption, "The lion's mane behaved itself today." She was sitting across from me in the lounge, eyes fixed on her phone. I clicked on the post and gave it an award. A few seconds later, her face lit up. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just some funny messages in the group chat," she answered. From there, I stalked her profile daily. Anytime the two of us were in the lounge, I'd award her posts, and I'd watch her smile and kick her feet around, excited. This insider information helped me nail her birthday gift, a blanket made from old t-shirts, which didn't fit anymore. And she gave me ideas for our anniversary, dinner at a restaurant she'd asked about in our city's local sub. It felt like I turned on the cheat codes to our marriage. But after I lost my job, her posts took a turn. She began browsing the marriage/relationship advice subs, and after 3 weeks of me bombing countless interviews, she asked for tips over on dead bedrooms. Like I needed the reminder I couldn't perform. It was hard not revealing I knew she shared intimate details about our relationship with strangers online. But if I told her, she'd just make a new account, and I'd lose my window into her innermost thoughts. Her original posts had gained some traction, which meant tons of users asked for an update. Then she posted about how the situation had gotten worse. She wrote about how I snapped over every little thing and had even started lashing out. The tension continued to swell. Soon came the ultimate gut punch. A confession post entitled, "I'm terrified of my husband." I calmed things down a bit by cooking a few romantic meals, and I told her I was deeply sorry for dumping my frustrations on her. I even bought the damn hair care package. This made her post some positive updates. She wrote that, although we had a long way to go, things were definitely looking up, that we'd be okay. But the fact is, things aren't okay, and they'll never be okay again, now that I know what she really thinks of me. So, I searched for subs that she was still actively participating in. Subs like this one. And then I sat down to write my very first ever post. She's sitting opposite me as I type this. There's a knife under my armchair, and I already know how I'll dispose of the body. Now it's just a case of waiting for her to read my confession and realize what's about to happen. So, if you're reading this, Maria, it's time to look up. I hear voices in the woods. I don't like people much. Never have. As a young girl, I left my parents' home to become a park ranger in the Great Smoky Mountains because I thought it'd mean I could be in nature all day. I was a glorified janitor and tour guide for most of my tenure there. Nothing makes me angrier than some yuppie fucks asking me, "You know the closest gas station?" I do, but I couldn't give a shit less whether you find it. Or, "You know any great stories?" No, I don't. I lasted about 2 months before I was fed up with it and left to find work that fit me better. I tried to be a fisherman since I loved to fish, but I hated it after 5 months. Nothing appeased my young mind, so I up and left society. With whatever money I had left, I bought as many tools as possible and went out into the woods of the Smoky Mountains. After some time, I found a beautiful clearing in the woods, flat, covered by trees, and most importantly, miles away from any town. It took me about a month to build myself a little cabin straight out of the little house on the prairie and plant some food so I could survive. I've been out here for God knows how long, maybe a decade, but every day is the same, just how I like it. I wake up to the sun shining into my room, covering the walls with warm light. I walk out onto my porch and sit there and think for most of the morning. Once I feel as though I'm ready for the day, I get up to go hunt or fish down the hill. If I catch something, I'll come back and clean it. If I catch a raccoon or a rabbit, I'll skin them and dry their hides for selling at the flea market 10 miles away. I know I said I hate people, but sometimes there's something I just can't build on my own. I'll eat dinner by myself, then roll into bed to start the next day. That's how it's been, and that's how I like it. But the past couple of weeks, I can swear I hear someone talking to me from the surrounding woods. I assume it's just the wind, or maybe I'm finally going crazy after all these years. Most of the time, I can barely make out the words. I know something is being said, but I'll only catch a few syllables here and there. It doesn't scare me one bit, but I just find it strange. Finally, last week, about 5 days ago, I heard my first full sentence. The woods are no place for a woman like you. It startled me, that's for sure. It seemed to be coming from outside my house, near my front porch. I flung my wooden door open, almost knocking it off its hinges, and pointed out into the dark with my old Remington. "You fuckers don't know who you're messing with," I shouted. My voice traveled through the trees, but nothing responded. Angry that someone may be on my property, I sat in my living room, gun across my lap for the whole night. I awoke in the morning, startled by a loud noise at my feet. I had dropped the Remington onto the floor. My heart beat fast, but quickly subsided to its usual lub-dub. My day was normal yet again. I decided I needed some more ammo, so I went into town and sold some skins to the locals and made my way back to the cabin. Night rolled in, and I sat on my porch until the sun had long left my side of the mountain. It had started to get pretty chilly, so I made my way back into the house and threw some logs into the wood fire stove and sat in my lounger. I tried my best to stay awake, but my head kept bobbing like I was listening to some old rock and roll as a young kid. I was seconds away from slumber when I heard something close to my ear. "That gun isn't going to save you from us." My eyes sprung open and I shot up out of my seat. Panting, I looked around the room and saw nothing, heard nothing. I was so damned angry, I stomped my foot like a little kid and yelled, "If I see you, I've got a bullet loaded with your name on it." I stormed off to my room and locked my door. I could say I wasn't frightened, but does someone who isn't scared clutch a rifle to their chest and stay up all night? I couldn't tell you. By this time, I had been pretty sleep-deprived and decided to stay in my cabin all day. The voices started to appear in the early evening before the sun went down. They increased in their frequency and volume. "This land is not meant for you. It's ours, and we will rip it from your hands. We can see you. Only a matter of time before your skin and bones become dirt." At this point, I couldn't eat, drink, or sleep. I moved my chair to face directly towards the door and sat there. The night passed into day, and the voices taunted me. I never wavered. I never moved. Day rolled into night again, and I sat with my bladder full and my colon ready to explode. But I wasn't fucking moving. The voices became so loud that I tried to cover my ears. It didn't help. They seemed to be coming from inside my head. All of a sudden, they stopped around 10 p.m. All was quiet, except for the light crinkling of leaves outside my cabin. Each crinkle came closer and closer by the second, until the crinkling stopped, and I could hear feet thudding on my wooden porch. I readied my rifle at the door and waited. The footsteps stopped in front of the door. 2 knocks rang through the wooden door and into my ears. I pulled the trigger, and a bullet traveled straight through the door. A heavy thud hit my deck, and I ran to the door and swung it open. On the ground lay a short, young man in a park ranger uniform. In his hand was a letter. I picked it up and brought it to my face to read it better. It was a notice of wildfires increasing in the area and to let them know if I see any. I crumpled to the deck and I wailed. The voices never returned. I know this subreddit is meant for those who have horrifying stories to tell about their past experiences, coming from the supernatural aspects of life, and some coming from their haunted house. Either way, this is a horror subreddit. I am aware. This story is meant to scare you, but in a realistic manner. It doesn't have anything supernatural about it. It doesn't have any scary monsters. This is something that happened to me that I was terrified of. When I was about 8 years old, my parents were divorced and both remarried. I lived with my mom at this point. She married a drug addict. In turn, neither of them were good people. At this point in time, we lived in a trailer in this back holler in a small town, southern Kentucky. One of the people there had a serious addiction to crack cocaine, and I mean serious. He wasn't so bad with the meth, but the other stuff he did like literally every day. It terrified me. He terrified me. One day, he got high. He was goofing off with his best friend and was waving his gun around like it was a kite. He forgot to unload it. That's what he told the cops. Him and his best friend ended up getting into an argument over something, and when he pointed the gun and pulled the trigger, it was too late. The bullet went straight through his heart. He dropped to the ground. I was the only person there at the time. I swear he laughed. When he pulled the trigger, I swear he did. He looked at me and smiled and recocked his gun. That's when my mom, my aunt, and my brother came running around the corner. He saw them and ran. They tried to stop the bleeding. I was standing right next to the guy who was shot. There was blood on my face, my Dora shirt, my jeans, my Paw Patrol shoes. I stood there while his mom wailed and tried to stop her son from bleeding out. I stood there while my mom held my brother while he cried. I stood there while the ambulance arrived and pronounced him dead, while the police questioned everyone. When they came to me, I didn't know what to do. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything while they forced me into the shower. while they brought me to the police station, while the policeman questioned me in this small room with 2 chairs and a small table. The man who shot his best friend was found a few days later. I have never been a fan of guns, even before the incident. Just the thought that one pull of a trigger could so easily undo years of work to become human. All of it. I didn't speak for weeks after the incident. This story isn't about the supernatural or monsters under your bed. It is to warn you about the monsters that sleep under the same roof as you, about the monsters you pass on the street, about the monsters that are human beings. A very big thank you to the authors who allowed me to read these stories for you this evening. Be sure to check out their full stories and other works by following the links in the caption. Until next time,